Morning doesn't care about borders. Cargo drones lift from Pacific ports. Power markets wake. 1,000 dashboards blink green and one quiet assumption holds everything together. Earth can keep pulling what it needs from itself. Today, that assumption thins. The year is 2075. Mars isn't a postcard anymore. It's a spreadsheet. Launch windows open like trading days. Transfer vehicles glide on predictable arcs. The first thing you notice is how ordinary it looks: schedules, tenders, maintenance logs. The second thing you notice is who's listed on the manifests: space agencies, defense contractors, state-owned miners, logistics firms with names you've never heard until now. The third thing is the cargo. Not science kits. Not flags. Pumps. Drills. Reactors. Printers big enough to spit out a habitat wall in an afternoon. Tools that mean business. The story starts earlier, but the day it becomes obvious is the day 3 ships slip their moorings within hours of each other. A US-led coalition stack bound for Arcadia Planitia. A Chinese convoy angled for Deuteronolis. An Indo-UAE industrial tug headed for southern mid-latitudes, riding a trajectory that says they've done their homework on buried ice. Everyone is going for the same 2 classes of prize: water and power. Water becomes life, fuel, and leverage. Power makes everything else possible. On Earth, the headlines say land rush. On Mars, the word is quieter: sites. The first weeks are logistics in slow motion. Orbital relays wake and start talking. Aerobrakes flare over thin air. Cargo sleds unpack like nested tables: rover, gantry, spares, a printer, a box with socks and toothbrushes because people are coming soon and they will want the comfort of normal. Reactors ease into the regolith behind berms. Tented labs pop like mushrooms after frost. Flags are planted only on the interior screens of control rooms. Outside, there's just dust and work. Why Mars? Because the math changed. Earth spent its way into tight corners, rare earths that aren't rare but are messy, water that is abundant but misplaced and overpromised, energy that is vast and still somehow not where you need it when you do. Mars offers different headaches and different opportunities: ice locked in latitude bands, regolith rich enough for construction feedstock, mineral seams with names that used to be purely academic. No one expects to ship or downhill for profit. That's 20th century thinking. The play is local value: fuel for cislunar lanes, materials for off-Earth manufacturing, redundancy for a civilization that finally understands single points of failure. The rules on paper are clear and fuzzy at once. The old Outer Space Treaty survived by being vague. The new Mars Resources Accord tries to be specific without admitting it wants to invent property. The compromise is permits: use what you can responsibly, publish your footprints, don't lock out others, remediate when you leave. Everyone nods. Everyone tests the boundaries. The first friction isn't a flag standoff. It's a map. 2 survey networks publish overlapping resource models of an ice body under a nameless crater rim. One model says continuous lens, the other says patchy with brines. Both point their clients toward the same square kilometers. On a planet that large, you'd think this wouldn't happen. On a planet where useful things hide in a few predictable places, it does. Tensions don't arrive as soldiers. They arrive as updates that don't quite deploy, drones that find their plans changing mid-flight, a comms link whose latency jumps mysteriously when a certain relay is in view. On a Thursday, a Chinese maintenance crew drives up to a US-flagged sensor mast to inspect for emissions compliance, and the Americans, watching from orbit in Nevada, realize the future is here and it looks like a checklist. Nobody wants a headline with the word incident in the same sentence as dust plume. So the countermoves are elegant. The coalition stack brings an extra relay online on a different frequency plan. The Chinese crew produces a memo so dry it could be used to wick water from regolith. The Indo-UAE tug publishes its permits in triplicate and posts a camera feed nobody asked for but everyone watches. You can feel adults in the room. Back on Earth, markets do what they do when they sense scarcity and optionality. Futures tied to lunar propellant dip as Mars fuel depots prove they can turn ice into LOX and methane without babysitting. Niche manufacturers surge because their valves don't freeze in CO2 dust. Insurance firms build a new word: geo-exo risk. It covers everything and nothing, and the premiums are priced by people who know exactly how often one relay can fail before the whole plan staggers. On Mars, the work is unglamorous and heroic in the same breath. Excavators cut trenches to keep drifts off hardware. Printers spit out culverts and pads in a material that looks like stone and tests like plastic. In situ resource units huff and cough and finally sing, condensing life out of air that would kill you in a minute. The first runs are ugly. The second are better. The third get names. In the third month, a small thing becomes public. A rover belonging to the Arcadia team rolls across a line another team thought was theirs. Nobody gets close. Nobody needs to. The image of the track spreads faster than any official statement. A day later, 3 diplomatic accounts post the same sentence in 3 languages. On Mars, rights follow work, not lines. It's not law, but it's the kind of sentence that sticks. There are no armies, but there are security teams. They wear mission patches instead of flags and carry tools that open panels instead of rifles. Their job is to watch for the things that could escalate: tampering, jamming, sabotage disguised as maintenance, a vehicle that lingers too long without a reason. They keep logs. Logs are currency. By month 4, the first big argument crystallizes into policy. Is a permit exclusive while you're actively producing? How big is the pad you need to keep safe? 1 kilometer? 10? The Accords didn't say because the drafters lived on Earth and thought in Earth plots. Mars is making new shapes. The compromise is a donut, exclusive core footprints measured by demonstrated activity, plus a shared buffer where crossing is allowed but loitering isn't. It sounds absurd until you see the heat maps. It works because everyone can explain it to a technician at 3 in the morning. Technology fails gracefully and sometimes rudely. A private array loses orientation and starts cooking itself. The nearest rival sends a crew and doesn't ask permission first. They align the panels, leave a note in the camera, and request a favor that won't be called in for a year. The clip goes viral on Earth and is used by both sides to prove opposite points. The truth is simpler: a kilowatt not lost today is a fight not had tomorrow. Communication networks harden into a skeleton that looks suspiciously like jurisdiction. Relays owned by one block route traffic for others until a scheduled maintenance window coincides with a delicate excavation step and someone suggests the word leverage. Immediately, a new rule writes itself: critical operations publish a 24-hour do not disturb flag across the mesh. Break it and you lose favors for a quarter. It's petty. It's effective. The first crew rotation brings a change in tone. People step onto Martian soil who have lived their career preparing for this exact kind of work. Field engineers who treat policy like weather. Systems techs who can fix a pump with 3 parts and a prayer. Medics who can spot stress 2 days before it shows as a mistake. They don't tweet. They don't posture. They send home pictures of hands with dust ground into the lines and the caption reads, "Fine day." Earth politics tries to keep up. Hearings convene. Think tanks publish. Someone floats the idea of a Mars Coast Guard and gets roasted by people who know there is no coast. But quietly, regulators do something useful. They require any entity drawing water at scale to publish daily extraction totals to a shared ledger with a lag. Privacy hawks hate it. Markets love it. Scarcity behaves better in light. By month 6, the first real conflict is not over ice. It's over shadow. A habitat that never should have been sighted downwind of a printer farm wakes to find its solar yield halved by dust roostertails from night operations. The operating team shrugs: permitted work, published schedule, nothing to see here. The habitat vetoes. Comms heat up. Then someone proposes a fix a farmer would admire: a berm, 3 meters high, printed in place in 40 hours. The team that caused the problem prints the solution and the message reads: "We forgot the wind." That sentence will save a life somewhere else, someday. Month 7 brings a real scare. A supply ship burns too much during aerobreak and lands long by 30 kilometers. It's intact. It's also sitting in a slice of land not cleared for heavy traffic. 2 blocks argue over whose people can approach without triggering a procedural landmine. A third group drives anyway, stows the tanks, and waves on camera. The next day, 3 lawyers draft a clause that didn't exist a week ago: emergency ingress trumps permit boundaries when equipment integrity is at risk. It's not charity. It's self-interest with a long memory. The economy begins to pivot in ways that look trivial until you add them up. Comms firms on Earth sell Mars-grade service contracts for terrestrial infrastructure. The term is marketing and also not a lie: more redundancy, better telemetry, slower promises, fewer failures. A repair culture rises with the dignity it deserves. Children write reports about dust control the way their grandparents wrote about recycling. Month 9. The first court case threads its way through a brand new tribunal with judges from places that don't always speak to each other on Earth. The dispute is dull and vital: how much monitoring counts as interference? The ruling is a master class in grown-up language. Watch all you want. Touch nothing without notice. Publish logs when asked. Keep secrets only if secrecy is the point of your work, and if secrecy is the point of your work, don't put it next to the water. The weapons everyone feared look different when they arrive. They aren't guns. Their denial of service bursts on comms, dust deliberately kicked up at the wrong time, a rover that parks just so in the way of an approach path and forgets to move until a notice arrives with the word tribunal in it. These tactics fail more than they succeed. The reason is simple: Mars punishes pettiness. Every hour you jam is an hour your own instruments miss the same sky. By month 10, something shifts from contest to culture. The first cross-block workshop on where in Code 2 grit fills in minutes. A maintenance chief shares a trick that adds 400 hours to a pump seal. A rival improves it and credits them by name. This is not a kumbaya moment. It's the market finally remembering that most competition happens above a floor we all need to stand on. Terraformation stays a dream on the whiteboards because no one has time for it. What grows instead are places that act like towns even if they don't look like them. A machine bay that doubles as a mess, a small greenhouse that swallows Code 2 and spits out morale, a wall where people pin photos of blue things. Governance grows there, too: posted work rules, quiet disputes settled before radio time is wasted, a ritual where new crews read the list of lessons bought dearly out loud. No one claps. Everyone listens. Month 11 brings the first true shared emergency. A regional storm goes sideways and stays there. Visibility collapses. Panels ice. Batteries sag. Everyone had planned for this as a line item. No one had done it under pressure with neighbors. The mesh lights up with requests and offers. Spare power loops through the network like a tide. A single short text becomes the day's motto: call before you dip below 30. No one dips below 30. When the sky clears, some people cry. No one laughs at them. The year closes with paperwork that matters more than most speeches: an updated Mars Resources Accord addendum signed by blocks that spent 11 months pretending they liked each other less than they do. It codifies boring things that prevent exciting disasters: donut footprints, emergency ingress, extraction ledgers, do not disturb flags, shadow rights, dust berm responsibility, evidence retention, and the smallest clause of all, courtesy calls between leads before anything goes on the public channel. It's not peace. It's adulthood. So what breaks? Old habits. Cheap talk. The idea that you can run a frontier with speeches and vibes. What still works? Redundancy. Published schedules. The stubborn decency of engineers who would rather fix a stranger's panel than win a press cycle. Who gets hit first? Anyone who treats Mars like a mirror of Earth's politics. Who gets ahead? People who can explain their plan to a tech at 3 a.m. with a dying battery and make it sound doable. And what should you watch from home, where your feet are on good dirt and your sky is thick? 3 things. Watch for permits turning into precedents, that's property by another name. Watch for fuel prices in Cislunar space bending downward as Martian ice becomes Martian propellant. Watch for high schools quietly adding Mars-grade maintenance to shop-class syllabi. Culture always shifts before law admits it did. Mars is not a gold rush. It's a competence rush. The prize isn't a flag in regolith, it's a supply chain that doesn't snap when Earth's does. It's water turned into fuel turned into reach. It's a new habit of mind that treats scarcity as a chance to be careful instead of cruel. Morning again. Earth spins. Mars turns. Relays blink. A rover checks a berm and someone fixes a latch. The race is on, but it doesn't look like sprinting. It looks like people doing the right things in the right order, with enough humility to publish the parts that didn't work. That's how civilizations move without falling. That's how the red planet stops being a story and becomes a system. We didn't conquer Mars. We learned to behave there. That might be the richer resource.